Good job today, man. It's one at a time, and we'll get the job done. Y'all know what to say. On three. 1, 2, 3.
And the home of the Jets.
What is going on, everybody? A Wednesday night special with my good friend, the man of the people who does like 17 shows a week, Gunny Gumby. You got New York Jets Situation Report. You got the Hanger Hangout. You got the draft show. I mean, I don't know. When do you sleep, man? When you're doing a show every day, 5 times a day, when do you sleep, man?
It's getting exhausting, if I'm being honest, man. I got to do better in saying no, right? Sometimes I'm a little bit on the tired side of it, but it's talking New York Jets football, bro. So for some reason, somehow, no matter how tired I get, when the opportunity arises, I seem to go ahead and find a burst of energy, and I can talk about the Jets all day. So, yeah, I mean, I sleep on the weekends. I try to avoid doing anything on the weekends specifically. So I get to rest on the weekends. That's my answer to that. The weekends is when I get to sleep.
Bro, your work ethic is relentless. All you guys, like I admire all you guys that do this because it's just like Matt, Ryan, Green Bean. You guys are cranking out content. Ian, just everybody. Jets Talk 24/7. It's like, wow, man. Like I sit back and watch you guys. I'm like, why should I do draft stuff when you guys are the experts? I just sit there and ask questions. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, you've been doing it for a long time, Tyson. You know what I'm saying? It's understandable that you go ahead and pick and choose when you want to go ahead and get in front of the camera. You've got the freaking lineage. You know what I'm saying? You're one of the OGs of the game. So, let us young pups take over for you while you go ahead and come on here whenever you feel like it.
Well, it's funny watching all these draft takes, too. All the arguments, all the heated debates. Are you a Bauer fan or not a Bauer fan? Are you an expert? Are you a clown? Like, there's so many debates, too. I'm like, I don't want to get ripped apart by just a random honest tweet because these Twitter streets now are just out of control. So I stay neutral right now.
Yeah, it's different out there, man. Like these, everybody now is an expert in draft analysis. Everybody now's opinion is gospel. If you have one that goes against the grain, then damn you. Like it's crazy just how much I guess we're gonna say emotion is into like the NFL draft, as if like we're getting paid to make these mock drafts or these assumptions. It's crazy right now, man. But you're right. It's dangerous out here on these Twitter streets. It ain't friendly.
It's like it's somewhere along the line. It seems like respect got lost. Where it's like, listen, man, like I respect every analyst that takes time to watch the tape and go watch the film. Like, if you watch it and if we don't agree, I'm cool with it. But like, I don't understand all these like this guy's a clown, doesn't know what the hell he's doing, this and that. Like, mock drafts are like 20% right, and then general managers all across the NFL and scouts get fired every year for blowing draft picks. There's no exact science.
Getting paid.
Right. They're making millions to have a staff of scouts. Like I respect guys that watch the tape. They literally have a team of scouts and analysts ready to pick this one player, and they still fuck it up.
Still get it wrong. But woe is you if you decide to have an opinion differently. What do you know what you're talking about? Like that's why you're freaking on the couch, freaking doing mock drafts.
Yeah.
Or like 90% of GMs have been fired from the NFL. They're sitting on the couch right now doing mock drafts and giving opinions. It's just an opinion.
It's wild, man, and it's just so funny. Like that's why I respect everybody. I listen to everybody, man. Like try to get different points of view on players. So you look at this Jets offseason, it's really, really interesting, man. They had a lot of holes. They had limited resources. We talked a couple times about this already on Dan's show, where it's like you give Joe Douglas a level of credit where for this task at hand, he did a good job with it. He was financially responsible, didn't give any crazy contracts, didn't blow away a lot of draft picks. How would you assess his free agency so far up until this point?
Yeah, Tyson, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. It's mind-boggling to me to be sitting here a week before the draft and coming into the offseason with the amount of holes we had on the offensive line. We were talking about not having a wide receiver too. What are we going to do about Bryce Huff? Like, it was nothing but question marks. Yep. And I honestly believed going into this season, the Jets roster was going to be a bit weaker coming into the season. I just didn't see how in the world Joe D was going to go ahead and patch up all of these holes and make them impactful freaking additions.
Yep.
I was wrong. and this is why I don't get paid to do it. This is why I'm not a GM. Somehow, some way, Joe D didn't only patch up all the holes that we needed to get taken care of. He did it with upgraded talent. You bring an all-pro freaking left tackle in Tyron Smith, who's going to be playing and protecting Aaron Rodgers' blindside on an incentive-laden deal. When I saw that particular contract, I swore Jody must have had like his family kidnapped or something like that, and he had to go ahead and sign the contract or else, right? Because it just didn't make sense. Then you see him make the trade for freaking Morgan Moses. It was done before, but for Morgan Moses, brought back a hometown favorite that we all loved a few years back. Didn't want to see him leave. Now he's back. He's a Pro Bowl caliber freaking right tackle. Now the Simpson kid is really the biggest question mark, right? But you saw him on the come up from playing for the Baltimore Ravens last year, who know how to train up offensive linemen. So he's been pretty much coached right. He can potentially continue to grow in our scheme. So across the board, you got rid of Laken Tomlinson. You got rid of the freaking swinging door that was whatever was the left tackle position, and then you secured the right tackle position as well next to freaking AVT, who's coming back and hopefully can stay healthy. Like, you literally got a starting caliber offensive line that on paper should be at worst an average unit. How does he do that in only spending $13 million in guaranteed money? That really blew my mind.
Yep.
But then he decided, wait, there's more. We're going to go ahead and bring in Mike freaking Williams. Just one of the most, I think, other than freaking Mike Evans, he's the most consistent in terms of contested catch rate in the NFL over the last 4 years. The dude can rack up yards. He catches everything thrown his way. He doesn't drop balls. He can separate. He can go ahead and do everything you need a wide receiver to, honestly, a wide receiver 1B to do. Yep. And we got him in the building for a discounted price. Granted, he's coming off of that ACL injury, and everybody swears the guy is freaking injury prone. But when you look at his freaking game stats, the dude, other than his rookie year where he wasn't a starter, and then when he had the ACL injury, he hits a 93% start rate. Yes, he shows up on injury reports quite a bit, but the dude plays. So he plays through those freaking little nagging injuries. So he's not injury prone just because we see him on the injury report a lot. He had a major injury last year in terms of an ACL, which is really a fluke type of an injury that can happen to anybody. Yep. And he's coming back and he's on the roster. Now him alongside of Garrett Wilson, that's a wonderful complementary piece. Yep. He came here on the cheap. You think he's done then? No, he's not done. Wait, there's more. We were worried about freaking bringing back Bryce Huff. He goes to the freaking Philadelphia Eagles. Darn it, man. This is a homegrown kid. We all loved him, wanted to see him.
They blew that one.
What?
They blew that.
They did. They should have signed him freaking last year before it got to this point. I think we can all agree on that. But in terms of how he was able to kind of like bounce back and still bring in an upgrade at the Bryce Huff position, right? He brought in Hassan Reddick, a guy who's been in double-digit sacks the last freaking 4 years. Yep. If you look at this roster, we got Ashton Davis back now, right? Chuck Clark is healthy again. Every question mark we had coming into this offseason, he legitimately answered before the draft. And now we're going into the draft, and we're like, what's he going to do? Because honestly, unless he decides to go defense, if he goes offense, I think the majority of us, 9 out of 10 of us Jets fans, are going to be like, it's a win. No matter what he does, as long as it goes offense in the first round, it's going to be a win.
He got backup quarterback, got Tyrod Taylor too. That was enormous.
I forgot about that one. That's a big one too.
That's a big one too. But crazy. You like what he did. He was pragmatic. He was responsible to everything. A lot of great moves. We can agree. Like, you can make a case for all of them, but it comes with risk. There's definitely 100%. Risk with it because the injury risk, the age factor, like Morgan Moses coming off of injury, Mike Williams coming off of injury, Tyron Smith dealing with injuries, just older, a lot of miles on his tires. So you understand, I think he did good, but I think there are a lot of moves still need to be made in terms of depth and insurance policies for these guys. And that's where you head into the draft, like you talked about, they have flexibility. You're not walking there and be like, you know what, we really got to get player X. It can be player A, B, or C. We can understand it. If you go defense, I'm not going to watch the game 100%. Anymore.
I'm losing my freaking mind.
I'm losing my mind. But so it's like you like that. So you give him credit for being good in free agency, still some moves made. You go into the draft. So now, what is your mindset going into the draft? Because to me, it's like you can go the whole best player available. You go, you know what? I want the player in the round one that gives me an impact this year, contributes week one with a win now season with Aaron Rodgers in a limited window. Or do you say, you know what? I have some wiggle room. He only plays 4 or 5 games, kind of what the Jets wanted out of Jermaine Johnson, what they wanted Will McDonald. You kind of like, you know what, we can just play him when they play him, no rush. Are you pressing for urgency in round one? Or are you like, you know what, I'll explore my options a little bit?
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna get right down to it, man. I think it's offensive line, and I know there's gonna be a lot of people that are against that because that goes against the comment you just made, right? Of somebody who's going to play potentially sparingly. So we're gonna go ahead and use a first round pick that's gonna potentially come off the bench in sparing fashion. But the fact of the matter is, we know this offensive line over the last 5 years has been a constant rotation in terms of who's on it. Like we've been injury bitten, injury stricken, however you want to look at it, snake bitten or whatever on the offensive line. The most important piece on this entire process, the most important component of the New York Jets freaking football season right now is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers goes down, and guess what? Yeah, Tyrod Taylor is nice. Are we winning the Super Bowl with Tyrod Taylor? I don't think we're feeling that good. We might make the playoffs, at least break that streak. But I don't think we're winning the Super Bowl with it. And you make all these moves, and we brought in Aaron Rodgers, and I believe that brought us to that potential mindset of it's Super Bowl or bust, right? Like AFC Championship game at worst, but Super Bowl is the goal. Aaron Rodgers needs to be upright. He's 40 years old, coming off a freaking Achilles injury. Offensive tackle, offensive tackle, offensive tackle. Now,
okay, but wait, I'll play devil's advocate with you because I agree with you. You have Tyron Smith, injury risk. Morgan Moses coming off a pec. AVT's been hurt last couple of years. A lot of concerns there. You know, you have kind of faith in Tippmann, tough kid, just getting, year two, I get him.
Yeah.
But now what if the Jets, and I kind of think this, I'm probably stupid for thinking this, but I have a feeling that either Connor McGovern or Bakhtiari are in their back pocket. They're like, you know what? After 100%. The draft, we're going to sign these guys. So if you have that in your back pocket a little bit, like, you know what? That takes a little bit of pressure off me having to go offensive line round one. But then the question is, from round one to round three, how big is the drop off in your offensive line? Your rankings, you know what I mean? Because not having a second round pick blows. So can you say, you know what? Am I feel comfortable going wide receiver round one, recognizing offensive line is an issue, but I can get a guy in round three. I have Bakhtiari, I have McGovern, I have Carter Warren. Would you feel comfortable with that mindset if they're in your back pocket?
So for me, I think the only reason I feel that comfortable is if a guy like Adunze, Malik Neighbors, or MHJ is the target. I think if one of those guys is predominantly the target, I feel confident that, yes, Bakhtiari will be a New York Jet, you know what I'm saying, after the draft. McGovern definitely will be a New York Jet after the draft. For me, I look at the drop-off when it comes to the offensive lineman after that first round, and it's projects. I mean, again, everybody in the draft is a lottery pick, right? We all know, like, anything can happen. But at that point, you see a lot more flaws as you go into that third round, looking at some of the potential prospects. Now, there are some guys that can get the job done in terms of coming in a rotational capacity, especially when you've got the guys we have in Carter Warren back there, Max Mitchell, and potentially bringing in a McGovern or a Bakhtiari. So we can still make it work for this season.
Right.
But I don't want it to be a situation where, like, we gamble on making it work and we miss on the opportunity to have to, let's say, freaking Tyron Smith goes down, right? No, we can have another kid come in there right now who has high upside that can potentially provide more than adequate protection for Aaron Rodgers' blind side. I think there's more opportunity to go ahead and get another playmaker after those three guys, after Adunze, Neighbors, and freaking MHJ. I think you're going to see some guys get pushed into the third round that have second round, potentially late first round talent, because there's so many wide receivers in this draft, Tyson. I feel like if you're going to take the gamble, and if again, gun to my head, if Adunze and say Fashanu is there at 10, I want Fashanu. And people call me crazy, but I want Fashanu. I would rather take the chance on a potential playmaker at the wide receiver position in the third round. But
I got to dispute this. I got to argue with you. I hate arguing because I love you, man.
So no, it's all by all means. This is what this is about, right? We're debating it.
So I would agree with you 1,000% if I knew for sure when Mike Williams was coming back to play healthy.
Okay.
Right now, to me, he's a complete unknown. They're going to tell us training camp. They're going to tell us definitely week one. Don't worry about it because they don't want nobody to panic. And they're going to hope that. So I worry about, because my experience as being an old weather Jet fan, it's like, all right, he gets a little setback. Now there's a crazy amount of pressure on Garrett Wilson to carry everybody along with Gibson. I think Lazard's just waste of time at this point. So now it's like, now I'm worried about that. Or I go the opposite, where every time last year, Garrett Wilson absorbs enormous hits. He went down probably 5 or 6 times last year. We're like, Jesus Christ, he's going to be out for the year. And he pops back up. I'm like, all right. He's pushing it, like, just the law of averages. If he gets banged up now, he's banged up. Mike Williams, don't know when he's coming back. Who is my receiver? So for me, I get nervous about that. So I guess it's just a matter of rankings and what receiver is going to be there. Like, I like the same third receivers you do. I think we all like the same guys.
Yeah.
But it's like, at some point, do you trade up? Do you trade back? I don't know. But it's like, I want playmakers. So then if you're going to tell me, listen, we're going to go offensive line 10, third round, we get wide receiver to be named, and we go sign Beckham or we go sign Tyler Boyd, I'm cool with it then. Then I feel more comfortable. I just want Aaron Rodgers to have legitimate pass catchers. I don't want to sit and pray Alan Lazard returns to being mediocre. I don't want to work. Like, I want guys. You know what I mean? Like this is a time to like go big or go home with wide receiver. So I'm kind of more aggressive there.
So in that situation, so if a Dunze is there at 10 and there's like a Fashanu or one of your favorite offensive linemen, for you it's easy. It's a Dunze.
I'm so torn, dude, because I understand it. Like I yell about the offensive line every year. Like, we have no depth. What the hell are we doing? And the case you can make too for offensive line is, you know what? Say you draft Olu, right? He's not forced to play week one. Guess what? He's learning from a Hall of Famer. He's sitting back learning. And if he wants to play 4 games, if he has to play 4 games, that's great. But you know when he's playing? Starting next year with your new left tackle, because Tyron Smith won't be here. So I can understand that as well. I can understand all the scenarios, but the part of me, I want the high-flying offense. I want dynamic guys. And I'm not discounting Gibson and Brownlee and I am discounting Lazard, clearly. But I just think you want guys, dude. And it's like, if you get a running mate for Garrett Wilson in the first round, pair these guys up for the next 5 years together. Let's go. Let's keep them together. Let's roll with them. You know, it's
and I get where you're coming from, Tyson, because again, that is the dilemma. Like, because I've been hit with the okay, well, you're so concerned about, you know, an offensive lineman goes down. What happens if Garrett Wilson goes down? And then you're moving individuals up in slots they really shouldn't be. Exactly. Now, again, I do believe there's some really, really good talent you can get in terms of a wide receiver in the 3rd round. But if we're talking about like wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, now you're just taking a gamble when you get to that point. Yep. I see a lot of wide receiver 3 potential, maybe some wide receiver 2 guys in that 3rd round. But no, I get that. And this is why, like, for me, I've come to the point where even though I am team offensive tackle, if the New York Jets next week decide they're going to go freaking Adunze, if he falls to them, I am going to be celebrating because I understand the logic, like you just said. Like, listen, what happens if it's Garrett Wilson? I mean, I know he's been able to stay on the field, but it could happen. It's football. It could happen. So I've been in the same dilemma as you are.
It could happen.
Exactly. So, like, and I feel like if the worst thing could happen when it comes to us is going to happen. And that would be the situation where, like, oh man, he's been able to go ahead and play, you know, every game for the last 2 years. We reinforce the offensive line. Tyron Smith finishes his first full season in freaking a decade. And we never used any of the offensive linemen, but we lost Garrett Wilson. And we had to have Alan Lazard, wide receiver 2, Mike Williams when he comes back as wide receiver 1. I look at Aaron Rodgers when I think about that, and I think to myself, all right, Aaron Rodgers got Alan Lazard paid with the Jets last year. Yep. He was able to elevate his game to get him paid. Mike Williams potentially coming back, being wide receiver 1 could go a long way. Randall Cobb was a nobody before freaking, you know, Aaron Rodgers pretty much elevated him. Maybe he can do the same thing for a guy like Gibson. I do know I like freaking Conklin a lot more than people want to admit. This is a guy that freaking with Zach Wilson was racking up 600 plus yards, 60 plus receptions, top 10 stats in the NFL at the tight end position with a bum at quarterback and a bum at OC. So, and then you forget we got a guy in the name of Breece Hall who can catch the ball out of the backfield. And with the offensive line we just put in front of Aaron Rodgers, I think they are going to be more run friendly. And we got that top 5 defense that we don't need to line up. I feel like if Aaron Rodgers is upright, if we lose a guy like Garrett Wilson for a couple of games, God forbid it's no more than that, right? Like, I think he can elevate the games of some of the guys you would bring into the building. Yep. But in the same token, man, I can't argue with it is a scary thought process of having to rely on Alan Lazard to be wide receiver 2 and an unproven Gibson. So I get both sides. I think I'm more like you were saying, like the PTSD of being Jets fans. I think seeing the damage the offensive line has caused to just demoralize our offense for the last 5 years.
You can see the same damage to Aaron Rodgers. The guys are dropping passes all over the place. That's the other thing. If you give him time and nobody's catching the ball, then you're going to see a pissed off Aaron Rodgers be like, "What are these? What are we like?"
These bums.
You could take both sides of this. Like, I can, you know, and I want that offense that can score 24 to 27 points a game, and we can just enjoy high flying football. So now the name, we're going to do a little quick mock draft, but this is a name that has divided the fan base. Brock Bowers, either he's the next coming of George Kittle or he's the next coming of Kyle Brady, whatever you want. You got your choices here, but
listen, and I get it, man. Brock Bowers is exciting to watch. Like I've gotten so against drafting tight end in the first round that I sat there and I watched his tape. I wanted to understand what the hype was. I wanted to go ahead and be able to argue it. And I get it. He's fun as hell to watch in college. He really is. But for me, he's 6'3". He's not 240 pounds. When his playing weight is about 230, 235. He's built more like a fullback to me than he's built like a tight end. I hate the fact that he's considered a weapon versus traditional tight end. I don't know if I trust my offensive coordinator to be able to properly utilize this guy. Like, there's just so many question marks. The miss rate or the bust rate for tight ends in the first round is significantly higher. It's like about on par with quarterback. Like, there's so many concerns. I don't know if he can handle freaking press coverage when he's going to go up against NFL talent, if he can go ahead and pretty much separate. I like a lot of his tape, but a lot of his tape is pretty much it's schemed open plays. Like, he's getting freaking the ball in his hands and bubble screens, and he's finding the open spots running down the street. Like, it's really screened. He's schemed open a lot. So I don't hate.
Hackett can do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Tyson. Let's not do that.
Secret sauce right here.
That's got to be it. That's some good stuff tonight. I just don't know if I want, again, for a guy that you have to get creative when it comes to the offense to kind of utilize. Brock Bowers right now, I think, excels at the college level because he's too big for most freaking safeties, and he's too fast for most college linebackers. That's great at the college level. I don't know if that really translates the way everybody thinks it's going to at the next level, when safeties are as big and as fast as he is. Linebackers are bigger and as fast as he is. Like, you're going to see a difference in terms of the NFL caliber defensive guys who can go ahead and go toe-to-toe with him. And I just don't know if it's going to – if you draft Brock Bowers at pick 10, I think Buffalo said this perfectly. He has to be an immediate all-pro.
Yep.
Like, if you're going to draft Brock Bowers at pick 10, right, in terms of the value for the tight end position, you're talking about passing up on the fifth-year option on an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. He has to be an all-pro. Like, if you draft him at 10 and he's just an average tight end, it's a bust. It's a fail because you took a premium freaking pick and you've got an average tight end. Conklin right now is an average tight end with, again, Zach Wilson throwing him the ball. We haven't seen him with a legitimate quarterback throwing him the ball. So you're in essence using the 10th overall pick for him to be average, and we had Conklin on the roster. So for me, do you have confidence for the Bowers supporters? Like, do you have confidence that this kid is going to come into the NFL and be an all-pro? I can't say that I feel that way. Again,
I think with that, I think the selling point is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers will throw him into being an all-pro or a very good player, where he's going to throw him open, find plays from trying to maximize his skill set. He's an incredible athlete. That's the selling point. Well, look, with Aaron Rodgers, he can do all kinds of stuff. Look what he's done in the past.
But then I argue then why does Aaron Rodgers only have a 19% target rate for tight ends throughout his entire career?
I mean, listen, I'm just a messenger, man.
I get that. That's what I'm saying. That's my argument back whenever, because I have heard that argument as well. I'm like, I get where you're coming from, but Aaron Rodgers, like, traditionally doesn't target the tight end position. Like,
that's
you're talking about,
and that's where you're thinking, like, if you had more faith in Hackett that he could actually come up with a high flying offense, scheme guys open, spread the ball around, and everything we didn't see last year. If we saw that, like, all right, now I know what his offense really is, but Zach couldn't run it. The only guy that could freaking run it was Trevor Siemian. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what the offense even is. We assume a lot of things. We don't know what it is with Aaron Rodgers here. So then it's like, well, how will they actually use Bowers, which to me is a concern. But then I also have concerns about Keith Carter coaching the offensive line. So I have concerns all over the place.
Yeah.
Right.
So the coaching is very, very
that's
suspect.
the missing piece of all this. Yeah. Like, you're hoping that Aaron Rodgers can offset a lot of things that you have a lot of problems with. Now, if we do a quick mock draft, just 1 to 10, because I want to ask you a couple questions just based on how you think it's going to go and the decisions the Jets have to make as we get further down. You almost wish they lost some of those games at the end of the season. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of us had that kind of a conversation feeling towards the end.
Right? Like, because the 10's kind of no man's land. Come on, beat 6 and 7. But we won't talk about that tonight.
Yeah, it's in the past. So we'll let it go.
I think me talked about that a couple times. So I think the Chicago Bears, we all know where they're going.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a run of quarterbacks. Now, the Washington Commanders at 2. Are you thinking Jaden Daniels?
I've been hearing a lot about JJ McCarthy, a lot about Drake May. I mean, for some reason, he is popping off. I think a lot of it is probably freaking what's his name, Harbaugh, pumping him up a lot to individuals, because a lot of guys right now are starting to feel like, hey, Harbaugh is really loving this kid. Maybe we should go ahead and move him up the charts. So for me, I think it's going to be Drake May. If I'm being honest, I think Drake May's going to come off the board too.
Right.
I mean, he just makes a lot of sense for them. A lot of people love Drake May. Again, I'm not a big fan at all of this entire quarterback class.
Me
I
neither.
don't think any of them are special. I don't think any of these guys are going to be the CJ Stroud or anything like that. Like the hype is a lot when it comes to these guys. But if you're going off of potential upside, I think Drake May right now is the guy that leaves a lot to be desired. Prototypical size, overall good dude. Again, he's got to work on some. I think some of his mechanics is questionable. He sells some. He reminds me a lot in terms of some of like Zach Wilson kind of like traits when it comes to some of the misses that he has. It's just like how, like why? But when the kid is on, the kid is on. So I would go Drake May would be the second guy off the board.
All right. So then the Patriots, who need a quarterback as well. Who are the Patriots going to take?
I think that's where Jaden Daniels goes.
All right. So first 3 picks are quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
The Arizona Cardinals, to me, or the next 3 picks get really, really interesting in terms of trades, what they do. To me, the Cardinals are going Marvin Harrison Jr.
100%, without question.
To me, that's a slam dunk.
Yep, it's a slam dunk. Once he gets there, because I think he's going to drop down to the 4. I think he's not getting past Arizona. It makes no sense to. They've got no other wide receivers. Kyler Murray is still your guy. I think they believe in him being the guy. He's healthy. Get him a true number 1 to properly evaluate your former first overall pick.
So now you go to the Chargers are interesting because they need a lot. So I think they're the team that if you're looking to try to get a quarterback, Vikings, Broncos, maybe even Raiders, this is probably where you're going to look at 5 with the Chargers. But assuming they stand pat, they can go. I mean, neighbors,
anywhere.
They can do all.
Yeah, they're hurting, but I think the loss of both of their wide receivers, right? Like that matters. They've also lost their running back in Austin Eckler. Like they're depleted of offensive weapons for Justin Herbert to operate. I think the move here is Neighbors.
Yep.
You got to go with the next best wide receiver on the board. Neighbors, I think, comes off the board first wide receiver off the board in any other draft. But again, he had MHJ in this one, so they got the sort of playmaker in Malik Neighbors.
Okay, so now Giants interesting too because Giants desperately need a playmaker. Also, they have a mess with Daniel Jones, who getting the big contract. He gets hurt. You can get out of the contract after this year. So do they bring in a guy to kind of sit and learn from him this year? The J.J. McCarthy rumors are all over New Jersey at this point. What do you think the Giants do?
I think they're going to trade back, honestly. I think the Giants are potentially going to trade back, try to recoup a couple more picks. But if they decide to stay put, they're going to go ahead and, again, try to support their guy. And I think they're going to go ahead and go offensive line.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, think about it, right? They've committed the money to Daniel Jones already. They've made some moves in regards to grabbing some receivers. Again, I believe they're going to trade back. I think they're going to trade back. That's what I would pick first. If I have to pick, though, I think you want to go ahead and put in a better offensive line in front of Daniel Jones to properly evaluate him. He got hurt again last year, right? They wound up going with the dude.
It wouldn't be Alt, though. They wouldn't take Joe Alt there, would they? Because they already got Andrew Thomas.
Oh, that's right. Andrew Thomas is left tackle for them over there, huh? I think they're going to trade back, man. They're going to have to.
Yeah,
I think Adunze that's too high for Adunze, right? And if you're there, it's still some quarterbacks on the board that I think you can get a guy like the Chargers to come up and whatnot. I'm wondering if the Chargers are really considering moving off with Justin Herbert because you're starting to hear
that's why you take the job for a quarterback like that,
right? Yeah, that's what I would think. But I mean, a lot of chatter about freaking Harbaugh wanting to have his own guy in the building. Don't know why you would take the job if Justin Herbert wasn't going to be your guy.
All right, so so your pick, just say the Giants stay where they're going to stay.
All right.
You're going to take who there?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Adunze.
You're right. Because they're not going to go linemen. To me, Giants are receiver or quarterback, dude. They are.
It's going to be Adunze.
So now, from a Jets perspective, your 3 receivers are off the board that everybody loves. So now it's like, all right, now we may have to pivot here a little bit or trade back or something else. So now Tennessee Titans, Alt is a slam dunk. I think it's
100%. Yeah, offensive line.
There, that's going to happen.
Yep.
Falcons, to me, are going to go defense.
Whether it's Jared Verse or what's that defensive end's name?
Turner.
Turner's on
Dallas
there.
Turner.
There's a defensive Latau.
Oh, I know you're talking about
Latu. Yeah, I saw some of his stuff, man. That kid's going to be nice to watch at the NFL level. He's going to be nice to watch. But I'm going to go edge rusher on this one. They've got none. I'm going to say they go with Verse. They're going to go with Verse.
Okay. Now, Bears, to me, would probably go defense as well. You would think they have enough playmakers at this point.
Now, for me, if Adunze had dropped, I was really worried that was going to be their move. But I think they're going to go with the other edge rusher on on this one. So I think it's Turner is the other guy.
Yep.
Go Turner.
So now you're at the Jets. You're sitting here at 10. There's only been, 3 quarterbacks taken in theory. The 3 top receivers are gone.
They're gone.
But only Alt is gone. So you pretty much have your choice offensive lineman here.
Yeah.
To me, if this is like plays out like this, you have to go offensive line. I'm not taking Bowers.
100%.
There's no way now.
For me, it's Fashanu. This is the pick. Now, I think in that situation, with the fact that there's some quarterbacks on the board that are going to garner some interest, I think a trade back scenario is going to be available to Joe. But honestly, for what? Like, are we going to trade back to potentially get Brian Thomas? Get another one of the offensive linemen? I think you don't play around with this, man. Go with the best player of need that you currently have on the board, which would be an offensive lineman. You grab him, and then you have him, like we said before, sit behind freaking Tyron Smith and learn. And when he does have to come in, we know he's been trained by a legitimate All-Pro, and he's going to get up there and freaking hopefully hold up until old boy can get back. So it's Fashanu for me.
So now, in terms of, we'll go trading up first. Is there a scenario where you would trade up? Like, what player would have to fall to what position where you're like, you know what? To me, like anything higher than 5, I'm not doing it. But 6, 7, and you could work somewhere up. Like, hey, say, I don't think it's me, Marvin Harrison Jr. I highly doubt that.
It won't be.
Neighbors would probably be
Neighbors. That's if we're trading up, and people say, what about for Odunze? I'm like, I wouldn't trade up for Odunze. I think I like what Odunze brings to the table. I would be ecstatic with him at 10. Maybe if it doesn't cost you much to move up to 9, potentially to go ahead and swap picks with the Bears to grab him, maybe. But if we're going to have to give up assets to grab anybody in this draft, give me Neighbors all freaking day. I don't think, like you said, MHA is not going to be there. Nope. I'm not trading up for Alt, even though I do like Alt. I'm not trading up for him. If you're going to, risk capital, the move is for Neighbors. If Neighbors drops to that 6 to 8 range, you better be on the phone making phone calls, man, and you go get that kid, because that dude is going to add another dynamic to our offense. It's going to drive defenses crazy. And you got Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Neighbors, Conklin, Brees Hall. I will say this. I think that this offense would be capable of top 5 numbers easy if everybody can stay healthy. If you bring a guy like Neighbors in there, man, he can stretch the field. Can stretch the field. He'd be fun to go ahead and watch for Aaron Rodgers to target.
So now, say like that was a trading up. Now the trade back. The ways on the board just fell right now. Jets are at 10. You figure Vikings, Broncos, they want to move up. Possibly the Raiders, maybe the Eagles. Who don't know. How far back do you feel comfortable dropping and still getting a quality guy like offensive lineman or a receiver? Like, is it like the Colts at 15? Like, how far back would you be comfortable going?
I'm okay for that 15 to 19 range, right? Again, depending on if you can go ahead and recoup a second to drop to the 19 spot, I'm all about it. But that 15 to 19 spot, I think, is a sweet spot because you're still going to have access to guys like, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Bowers falls to that freaking 15. Now, if you're talking about grabbing Brock Bowers between 15 and 19, for some reason, I don't know, it feels better for me because at least I know you've recouped another pick, hopefully a second or a third, and you're taking a chance on a guy with, again, I'm not an expert at freaking reading tape. What I see, I don't like, but everyone loves the kid. So I have to assume maybe there's a significant upside there that I just can't see when I analyze his tape. So I'm okay with taking Brock Bowers with a high ceiling, right? Like potential. Again, we're talking about wanting a guy that's going to at least be play at a Pro Bowl level, right? If you're drafting him that spot, but I'd be okay with the Bowers pick because at that point he would in essence still be the fourth best freaking offensive weapon really on the board if you take away his position. So yeah, I think Bowers, man, between 15 and 19 makes a lot of sense. But I'm also a big fan of Brian Thomas Jr. Aiden Mitchell, like you have options at that particular. But now JC Latham is a big like Dom C loves the guy. He loves him. Some JC Latham. Fatanu should be somewhere in that range as well. So I feel like 15 to 19, you're still in a strong position to make a decision that's going to benefit the roster now, or to provide that support we're looking for in terms of supporting Tyron Smith. And you've potentially recouped a second or a third, that's win-win-win. I think in a situation where it falls the way it did, I think trading back is the best case scenario, right? Because, again, I love Fashanu, but I'm not going to be mad if we can recoup a second or a third and we still have access to Fatanu, J.C. Latham, Brian Thomas, and Aiden Mitchell. Like, for me, I'm just like, now we're just, again, once the top 3 guys are gone, once Alt is gone, I think he's a surefire, like, this is going to be a Pro Bowl caliber freaking offensive lineman. And I think those 3 guys are the playmakers you want to get, like, without question. Once they're off the board, I think when you trade back, you're still in that realm of finding yourself like weapons. You're still going to find a weapon or the kind of depth you need on the offensive line.
Yeah, I love the trade back option because then you say you go offensive lineman. So you trade back, get an offensive lineman, and you get another 3rd round pick. I'd use that to move up. Like, all right, let's move up.
Exactly.
And let's go get the other wide receiver you want. Like, that's like I can buy into offensive lineman in the 1st round, but I just want to be aggressive as hell, getting back up in the draft and not settling. Like, sometimes Joe Douglas lets the draft fall to him, and you're sitting, you're like watching all these players.
And you're sweating.
And this isn't the year I want to do that. Let's not hope the guys fall into our lap. Let's be more aggressive and get the guy that we need because we don't have time. We don't have time to kill yet. Maximum 2 years of Aaron Rodgers. Get him the guys now. So I could buy into that. What do you think the drop off is in terms of wide receivers? Because the fear is there's going to be a run. There's always a run in the draft. You have we already had 3 in the 1st round. That's only the first half of it. I think once the top offensive line go, you're going to see even more wide receivers go. Where is your breaking point? Where like, you know what? Now I'm getting nervous. Where the Jets need to be aggressive. Is it like late 2nd round, early 3rd round? Like, where do you think they need to position themselves if they don't go offensive tackle in the 1st round? I mean, wide receiver in the 1st round.
Wide receiver. So, like, for me, my like Trojan horse guy that I think they can still get in the 4th is Malik Washington. Okay. So I think if Malik Washington is still on the board and you're talking about 3rd, 4th round pick and he's still there, that's my guy. So like for me, he's the guy that like if everything else fails and somehow we still wind up getting him and even if we went Brock Bowers and then we went an offensive lineman that potentially going to need some work in the 3rd and we get a Malik Washington in the 4th, for me, that's an A++ draft because I think Malik Washington is going to be he reminds me of Steve Smith Sr. That's who, when you watch this kid play, man, he's 5'8", about 200 pounds. He's solid muscle. He's a great route runner, soft hands. The dude just does damage, man. Malik Washington is one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. I've been talking about him since like February. So for me, I think the 4th round is it. I don't think there's no way he falls back past that. In fact, honestly, I think he's a 2nd round talent, but because of his size, people are going to overlook him. And again, this is a really deep wide receiver class, which is why he's going to keep getting pushed down the board. But yeah, 4th round for me, I think is going to be where I start to worry after that. If Malik Washington is there in the 3rd, I would take him, but that's just me. Some people think I'm crazy for saying that. They prefer the 4th round, grade or range where he's supposed to be at. But I take him in the 3rd. I really think you put that dude in the slot. You have freaking Garrett Wilson on the outside. You got Michael Williams on the outside. Like, you're good. Conklin, I believe that Aaron Rodgers would have a lot of fun with Malik Washington because of what he can do in the slot. So I think 4th round for me is when I start to freak out.
Okay, so then do you consider a quarterback at any part of this draft class?
I mean, yes. So I've been a big fan of Jordan Travis, right? To bring him in potentially, like I think we have a 5th rounder, 5th or one of the 6th. No, a 5th rounder or one of our 7th. I don't know if he's going to fall to the 7th. So a 5th rounder to go ahead and bring in Jordan Travis makes a lot of sense to me. But although I like him, I like his competitive nature. I like the fact that without him, you saw that his team just kind of fell off after he broke his leg. They literally were like, hey, you guys are undefeated, but we're not going to let you go into the playoffs because your quarterback got freaking hurt. So that just goes to show the value the man had at the college level.
Yep.
Like the fact that he and JJ are both Seminoles, right? They're both freaking have that connection. I think you have a guy like JJ vouching for his boy to come in as QB3, QB4. Like, you're talking about somebody that's going to go ahead and get immediate respect within the locker room because JJ's a dog, right? If JJ's going to vouch for this guy, he's got to be a dog too. So that level of confidence goes a long way too. So for me, I think Jordan Travis makes sense. But if not, then the kid Pratt, I think Pratt potentially is probably the most polished of those guys. Now, I really love Rattler, but I don't think Rattler's going to be available to us that far down. I think he's going to be gone late 2nd, early 3rd. Yep. So I don't see Rattler being there. So in terms of potential realistic options, I think it's going to be either Jordan Travis. Now, granted, he's not going to play for the entire year. He'll be on the IR, but who cares? Sit back there. You get to watch Aaron Rodgers, watch freaking Tyrod Taylor. You get to learn from 2 guys.
That's the perfect scenario.
Exactly. That's what we want. We haven't had that as Jets fans. We want that as Jets fans.
It's actually common sense for what,
right?
But now, how do you handle running back right now? Because I'm of the belief that they need a veteran backup running back to Breece Hall. I don't like Izzy, nice kid, put him on kickoffs, do all kinds of things with him, but like he's not your number 2. You want a guy short yardage, a reliable, you could spell Breece Hall. but most importantly, pass protection. A guy that is stout in pass protection, doesn't blow assignments and everything else. Like, are you about signing a veteran or drafting a kid?
Signing. And the move is Zeke Elliott.
Yeah.
I think Zeke Elliott makes a lot of sense. A lot of people look at him. Oh, he's washed. He's washed. Listen, I'm not talking about Zeke Elliott coming out here busting out 50, 60-yard runs for a touchdown. I'm not asking for that guy. Give me the guy in short yard situations is going to go ahead and get you those tough, gritty yards, those 2 yards, those 3 yards. And he's also a guy that's an incredible asset on the off and pass pro. Like, he can pick up a blitz. He's proven to do it consistently in Dallas last year with the Patriots. Yeah, give me that guy that can go ahead and protect Aaron Rodgers in regards to the blind side or do a chip or whatever he needs to. He's really good in pass protection. So for me to move is Zeke. I think Zeke Elliott will be able to balance this freaking running back room out quite a bit. Listen, I want Breece Hall getting all the touches. The only time he comes off the field is when he needs to catch his breath, and then you put him right back out there. So running back 2, running back 3, I don't care if it's Izzy or if it's freaking Zeke. They're only going to be coming out there on specific situations because Breece is going to be a bell cow for us this year. But ultimately, I think Zeke is the move. I know, like Swati, I'm surprised he's still available. I think Dobbins just got picked up today by the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And he's still injured, still coming off of injury. So I'm assuming Zeke is waiting for somebody because I think it would have made more sense for Zeke to potentially go over there, be an asset to assist, again, in pass protection for Justin Herbert. So I think Zeke is going to be a Jet. I have a gut feeling that, again, there's probably a handshake agreement already been done after the draft. He's coming into the building. But that's where I would go with it. Like, I think Zeke should be on this roster after the draft.
Yeah, I kind of think right now, like, free agency goes silent. Everybody focuses on their draft. And after the draft, like, all right, we still have this hole. We still need this. We had a plan in place already, all the handshake agreements. Now, the safety position is really interesting because you have Tony Adams, who the Jets love, who's becoming a very good player. Ashton Davis, fan favorite now, who's good on special teams, and somehow is developing. I would have cut him like 3 times already.
Yeah.
But sometimes he's getting better. And
something clicked.
Something, not sure what. But and then Chuck Clark, who everybody liked last year, unfortunately gets hurt, coming off an injury. The interesting thing about safety is there's still some big names out there, man. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like necessarily. I think right now the Jets defense as it is probably better than last year. I have some concerns.
100%.
Some concerns with the run defense a little bit, but this, I mean, I like Reddick as an upgrade. You know, they're all year, like another year playing together. You know, just they're going to be very good. But safety position is not a pressing need. But if one of these guys are still sitting out there, do you kick the tires on them? I mean, like it's a big upgrade. You have Pro Bowl guys out there.
Yeah, I'm shocked Simmons is still unsigned, if I'm being honest with you, man. And when we brought in Ashton Davis, I thought, oh man, somebody must have picked up Simmons because that would make the most sense. And no, he's still out there. So I can only imagine that whatever he's asking for in terms of compensation is just like, bro, you're a safety. It's no longer as valuable a position as it once was. And I think that might be the hesitation. But again, somebody that potentially they bring in training camp, maybe if Chuck Clark is still seeming a little wobbly, I think that could be in consideration. But I think when they look at their defense and the safety position, again, not being as valued as it should be, we got dogs at every single level of our defense. And I think they're looking at it like, okay, the safety position, you're just there as a safety net. So we're good. Like these guys, you know what I'm saying? We shouldn't be utilizing you as much with the kind of guys we have in front of them. But, man, I agree with you, man. An opportunity to go ahead and get a team-friendly deal. You bring in a guy like Simmons, man. I think Simmons is potentially the best safety we'd have on the roster if he signed. So the fact that he's still out there is kind of surprising. But when you think about it, after Ashton Davis got signed, and I just saw his contract earlier today, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's got to be it. Simmons got signed, or he got signed because Simmons is asking for real money because we got freaking Ashton Davis for nothing.
No, it's wild. So, like I said, you have a lot of confidence in defense, special teams. You brought everybody back. Mortstad, Zerline, you're there. It just comes down to the offense. And one interesting thing that you think about how the Jets are going about the business with the offensive line. And I was talking to Ian about this a couple of days ago, and we actually argued about this, I think, a little bit. But it was like, do you get the feeling the Jets could be not ultimately transitioning the ground and pound, but could realize what they have in Breece Hall, first of all? Realize that Aaron Rodgers is coming off a major injury. There's going to be some growing pains, a learning curve, all this. They haven't played in the field yet over 2 years. Yeah. Do you think it could be featuring the running game? Like do that ground and pound, work all this different run aspects, and then establish the passing game as the season goes along? Is that an option?
I think that should be the option. It should be the option. We already know Breece. We know who Breece Hall is. We know who he is. He's a dog. He's him. This guy literally is top 2 running back right now in the NFL. I don't think it's even close. Top 2 running back. And again, him and Christian McCaffrey, it's close for me, only because Christian McCaffrey's done what he's done with help. We've seen Breece Hall do what he does with no help. So that, to me, you should take into consideration. I think you go through Breece, man. We can go ahead and slow roll this whole passing game, change it up again as the season progresses, keep defenses thinking like, it's going to be running through Breece, and then somehow in November we're passing the ball more. I don't want to rush this thing, man. You got a weapon like a Breece Hall. Use the dog shit out of him, man. Like, I think Breece Hall should be fed 40 touches a game.
Like the Patriot game.
Literally, just keep feeding Breece. And the fact of the matter is, with Aaron Rodgers back there, the fear of what he can do at quarterback is going to help the run game. And the dogs we just brought in, by the way, the majority of these guys, Simpson is a dog in the run game. Morgan Moses is a dog in the run game. AVT, we know, is a dog in the run game. Now, Tyron Smith, he's a dog in general, right? More of a pass pro guy. But again, you don't become an all-pro without being a dog in the run game. So utilize those big boys up front. You just establish what I would consider to be a legitimate wall. Breece Hall has not had that. He hasn't. Imagine what Breece Hall can do with a legitimate offensive line in front of him. He's been able to accomplish
a quarterback.
It's, to me, it just makes too much sense to not have to put all the pressure on Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be nice for him to look at it and be like, oh, I actually have support. It's not going to be 100% on me. We can win by running the ball and my defense shutting out freaking other teams. Because, again, him being on the field alone is going to scare defenses into having to rethink the way they play the Jets. No more stack boxes against Breece Hall. Aaron Rodgers is back there. We got to take him seriously.
Here's a good question. This is something we talked about a couple weeks ago. Did anyone sign Becton? The answer is no.
No.
If not, would you bring him back? To me, early on, I had this feeling that he wanted to change the scenery. I think that the way the Jets handled him in training camp, all the different issues that went on, I know he loves Aaron Rodgers. We know that. But I think in terms of his relationship with the Jets, it seemed like it was always strained, right? Like it just doesn't.
Yeah.
I had a feeling he just wanted to change the scenery. He loved it here, but you know what? I want to try something else. And now I think he probably won't sign until after the draft. Would you consider bringing him back, or would you want a guy like Bakhtiari instead?
Give me Bakhtiari. And again, listen, Becton was a fun project, right? I mean, he gave us an exciting rookie year. He fell off, in my opinion, dramatically. Hey, my dogs are about to bark, so I apologize.
I don't care.
All right, so
we usually bring dogs onto the show here, so don't worry about it.
Okay, good to go. Just making sure we're good.
No.
So
we're good. But so
I wouldn't, man. I wouldn't. I think we've tried it. We've seen it. It was a boom or bust draft pick to begin with. It was a bust. He can go somewhere else, kind of like rebuild his game and kind of get his mind right. And again, loved the kid, loved his energy in terms of how excited he was. I love the relationship he displayed on Hard Knocks with Aaron Rodgers. I love how Aaron Rodgers seemed to kind of take him under his wing. But ultimately, I think at some point when some people just need to change the scenery. And I think for him, it's time. I think it's time. And I think as Jets fans, we just need to realize, wait, we tried it. The injury thing was crazy. And for me, call me crazy or just call me old school. The fact that he didn't start getting his mind right or serious until his contract year, taking his health, like that to me bugs me to this day. Like, I can only imagine if you cared about it more your sophomore year, what you could have potentially been. So for me, he slowed down his development quite a bit with not taking care of his diet, not taking care of his weight, and then all of a sudden he cared when it was as a contract year. Yeah, so that was a red flag for me, man. Good luck to the kid. Good luck to him. I think I'm cool with him being a Jet though.
So now the New York Jets are smart. They got the new uniforms out there. Now they're releasing images of Aaron Rodgers throwing the football. And
I saw that today.
Last year we were all going nuts because like, oh my God, it's real. He's finally a Jet. All this stuff. This year, you see it like that's cool. I'm still pissed off about last year because you just all the could haves and would haves and what could have been. But you're seeing it. You're starting to get fired up. Like that's our guy. The possibilities in this offense. What are realistic expectations for Aaron Rodgers this year, man? Coming off major injury, still don't know what the hell this offense is. A revamped offensive line where you're replacing 3 out of 5 starters. Hackett's still the coordinator. What's a realistic year for him?
So people are probably going to come for me for this one, man. Look, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be in that top 10 to 15 range in terms of quarterbacks in the NFL this year. I don't believe we're going to see an MVP Aaron Rodgers. And it's not that and not to say that I don't want to see that. I'm just being realistic.
Yeah.
The guy is 40 years old, coming off an Achilles injury. He's going to be playing quarterback and offensive coordinator with, in essence, an entire new roster because he really hasn't had a chance to play with this roster because last year he only gave us 5 snaps. He still hasn't played really away from Lambeau Field because, again, 5 snaps. There's just so many unknowns, and he's going to have to go ahead and adapt and adjust. Now, I hope he's just mad as all hell. Pissed off at how everything went last year. I saw the interview he did the other day, and he seems like he's a guy on a mission, right? Like watching that interview, I was just like, oh, he seems fucking pissed. I like that. Like he has something to prove on a mission, talking about how like he had a scare, like he would never play again, and how much he misses and loves it. Like to me, it sounds like a comeback story was just brewing while watching that. But I wanted to reserve myself to say, okay, he's still 40 years old. This is still new territory for him. He's still going to have to play OC and freaking quarterback for the Jets. And that's asking a lot. So I want everything running through Breece. Like I said before, I think Breece Hall is going to be an all-pro this year. He's going to lead the league in freaking scrimmage yards. I don't even think it's close. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy and he stays healthy, I will put money on it right now. Breece Hall is going to lead the league in scrimmage yards this year. And he's going to give you double-digit touchdowns. Book it. If you're doing fantasy football, I'm drafting them in every league that I can. So I would do the same thing if I were you guys. So I think it's going to be more of you're seeing Aaron Rodgers in that 3,500 to maybe 4,000 yard season, 30 touchdowns. You're okay with that. That's going to put him at between that 10 to 15 range. If Aaron Rodgers goes off and gives us 4,500 and 40 plus touchdowns, I'm not going to be complaining about it. I'll be ecstatic. I hope he does win comeback player of the year and MVP. Give it to him. But if I'm being realistic, that's where I see him at that 10 to 15 range. And that's more than enough with this freaking running game and this defense. You got let's say you have a top 10 offense and a top 5 defense. That's a Super Bowl caliber freaking roster, guys. It's a Super Bowl caliber roster. So I'm okay with that. 10 to 15 range is where I see Aaron Rodgers this coming season.
It's funny you say this, Brian, because I got some new stuff to add. I got a new Kill Switch poster. I got a new what else I got? A new Shine Down thing. I got all kinds of new stuff here.
It's coming. It just hasn't put it up yet.
I do rock stuff. I can't compete with. Look at Gunny setup, man. I'm not competing with that. All the nice green lights.
This was years of stuff. So this was years of stuff.
You have no idea
hanging up in the house.
Dude. I have so much. I have like a wall over there covering all kinds of autographed Jet stuff. But I'm like, I don't like.
And I'll be honest. If my wife didn't do this, I wouldn't have done this. My wife grabbed all the stuff that I had in the house and decided, like, listen, you're going to do this podcast thing because you've been talking about it forever and a day. Stop being a little bitch. Just do it. And she set up. This is my wife. She did all this. I didn't do this. If it was up to me to do this, man, you would have seen probably the jerseys, and that would have probably been it. I would have had the jerseys hanging up behind me. I would have probably had a couple of lights, called it a day. Now, the wife was just like, if you're going to do it, I know how you are. You want it to look freaking awesome. So I came home from work one day, and this was set up. So, yeah, I'm not taking credit for that. That's all the wife, man. Because otherwise, I'm just like Tyson. I just had my stuff like all over the place. Yeah. Some of it was in closets.
I have cool Jet stuff. And then like the one day Ryan was trying to help me, Jets Talk 24/7. He's like, I got the green light. Hear him a green bean. Like, we could say it like this, say it like that. I'm like, dude, fuck that. I'm saying it originally. I got no time for this shit. Now, here's my favorite question. This is for one of the members in the chat because if you know or don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of Coach Saleh. I'm not. I just don't have a lot of faith in him. I think he's a glorified cheerleader. I think when things are good, he's good. When things are bad, he's bad.
Yeah.
So that's where I am with him. He's got a lot to prove on and off the field as a leader of this team. Now, based on the offseason that Joe Douglas has had, we talked about it. In theory, on paper, he dressed a lot of holes where your team is better offensive line, Mike Williams, better playmaker. We're assuming you should get another wide receiver. Has Joe Douglas done enough in this offseason to kind of say, okay, you know what? My job is done here. You now have a win-now team for the Jets. Robert Saleh, like Coach Joe Douglas kind of saved his job and put the pressure on Saleh where it's like, listen, man, you now have to win 11, 12 games or Douglas stays and Saleh goes. Do you think that's actually happened?
Yes. I've been adamant on saying this. I think after what you see, so let me just break it down in its entirety, right? When you look at the roster, right, we remember what we had before Joe Douglas got here. It was an expansion level talented roster, right? Expansion level freaking roster. It was rough. Since then, the man has gotten us an all-pro cornerback. We have all pros at freaking linebacker, right? We have one of the deepest defenses in all of football. You brought us Garrett Wilson. You brought us freaking Breece Hall. And somehow, some way, you were able to go ahead and draw Aaron freaking Rodgers to this team. that only happened because, and as he stated, the talent he saw on the New York Jets roster. Aaron Rodgers, when you first heard him talk about like the decision coming here, he didn't say, "Oh, the coaching was great." He was just like, "Yeah, freaking Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson, and like the talent." He talked about the talent on this roster.
Yep,
that's Joe D. Joe D did that.
I mean, you could say that, but I could have made a case the way he handled the offensive line and quarterback last year. He could have been fired. Not having a backup quarterback, banking on Zach Wilson 3 different times is a fireable offense. The back thing was a disaster, but the offensive line, the way they put it together last year was a complete disaster, man. Like
true, but you can't argue the fact that he's made attempts at the offensive line.
He's made
they haven't panned out.
He's made attempts. I'm like he made quality moves this year, but they're all Band-Aid moves. They're all stopgap moves. 1 year deal, 1 year deal. Next year, in theory, we can look for 3 starters next year on the offensive line. So Joe Douglas he's holding the fort. I think he brought in quality guys. I like the talent he brought in. But it's like, all right, like it is risky. Like you're just saying in theory, if Tyron Smith gets hurt, because he always does every year, and then Mike Williams gets banged up, you're like, well, your 2 biggest moves completely backfired. You can fire him. But I think at this point, I think he's put a lot of pressure on Saleh now, where it's like, listen, all your broken excuses, because Saleh was like, well, I have no quarterback. Well, if Aaron Rodgers goes down, Tyrod Taylor, you can win football games with. Like, 100%. There are no more.
100%.
They wiped out all their excuses last year. Every excuse they put on, they used them all. Like, they have no more left now at this point.
So for me, that's why I feel like Joe D would probably get another year. If somehow, some way, Saleh can't get us to the playoffs with this roster, I think he could be gone, and Joe D gets another year. I just think when you look at the roster makeup, again, the Jets have been in the conversation for having a top 10 roster the last 3 years. They've been like, man, if you look at the roster, they've got this, that. They've loved our roster. Granted, injuries have told us to shut up and sit down, right?
But it's like they've said that. But I think as Jet fans, I think we grossly overrate players too. And I think that happened a lot last year. Like Dwayne Brown was a concern all offseason last year. We were all worried about that. Lake and Tomlinson never really came to fruition. You're like, man, like you had to hope that Tippmann played good center because you're worried about McGovern. I mean, we had a lot of concerns. It was just like right now, this time of year, everybody's great. No matter we're gonna draft 6 superstars during the draft. Like everything is great, best players ever until it actually plays out. And even like you saw Lazard last year, you're like, well, we all justified that signing, and then goes on the field and wants to play soccer instead of football. Like, what are we doing? Right
now, I think the Lazard thing only got love because he came with Aaron Rodgers, and of all the free agent wide receivers,
he was so bad he was inactive.
No, 100%. Oh, I get that. That was a flop, 100%. But you kind of see that it sounds like he quit on the team, man. The more and more you've seen the way Saleh talks about this kid, it sounds like this grown man, like he quit on the team because even in the offseason, so what's going on with Lazard? He said he's here for another year. There's still 2 years left on his contract. He said, yeah, he's here for another year. Like it's almost as if they had already made the decision to cut him, but they couldn't get rid of him. Yep. So I don't know, man. I just think in terms of the roster in general, because right now I think the Jets have a top 5 roster in the NFL. Pound for pound, I think the New York Jets, and and this is me being biased, I guess, right? Pound for pound, in terms of talent on this roster, in terms of resumes, the New York Jets have the best roster in the NFL.
Pound for pound. NFL?
In the NFL. I think the only ones you could potentially I mean, no, seriously. Okay, so let's look at do you think Brock Purdy's better than Aaron Rodgers?
No.
Now, when you look at the 49ers, that was my deciding factor. I think our cornerbacks are better than the ones that they have at the 49ers as well. So pound for pound, in terms of on paper, right? I think the Jets have the best roster. Now, if we're talking about accomplishments and whatnot, what they've done, I think it's going to go 49ers. I really love the Browns freaking roster. It's pretty well-rounded. People keep saying the Ravens, but the Ravens have lost key pieces on defense and on offense, so I don't believe they're a top.
But the only question is, don't you have concerns about the Jets learning how to actually win? They haven't done that yet.
100%. 100%.
You're hoping that Aaron Rodgers, his leadership, and C.J. Mosley and Mike Williams coming in, they're going to maybe change that. But they actually got to prove they can win big. Saleh has to prove he can win big games in a big spot.
Somebody asked, does coaching count? No, coaching does not count in that assessment. I was just talking about roster. Yeah, that's huge. That's why I said roster. I said roster, pound for pound.
Yeah, well,
coaching is a big. And again, the Texans is also one that I would say right now you could argue is probably one of the best rosters. I love everything they've done, and I hate it because I'm here in Houston, and all these guys are walking around with their chest pumped out, and I'm like, I get it. You should be. You got the quarterback. Your coach is awesome. Yeah, I get it. I understand. But yeah, in terms of again, roster wise, I wasn't talking like coaching. Too many question marks, and that's we're gonna lose that all day, right? In terms of when you look at the roster, you go position by position group. If you look at any other roster in the NFL, right, the Jets have the best roster in the NFL, like position group by position group, pound for pound. And it sounds crazy, right, Tyson? Until you sit down and you start analyzing some of the best rosters in the NFL, and you have to force yourself to take out the coaching because that's where everybody acts the way you do. I was told the Kansas City Chiefs have a better roster than we do, and I was like, where? I was like, how?
Well, that's also assuming that Aaron Rodgers is playing at probably like 85% of his normal self, I think.
But even if we give quarterback to them,
yeah,
we give them quarterback, we give them tight end. Where else are they better than us in terms of roster makeup right now?
No, I mean, I have a lot of faith in the defense. I like the wide receivers are kind of concerning. Running back, you have one good one. The offensive line is, in theory, going to be solid. It's like, to me, it's like a lot of ifs. If this, exactly. if this. Exactly. So based on what you're saying, your expectation is the Jets should win the AFC East then, right?
Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. If this team, so in fact, I've gotten to the point now where before I was saying how like we got to have healthy offense. I've gotten to the point now where I think it was Mike and I were talking about this. If the Jets either get a healthy Aaron Rodgers for the full season or a healthy offensive line for the full season, they win the AFC East. We don't need both. If we do one or the other, the Jets win the AFC East. Yep. The Buffalo Bills took massive steps backwards. The Patriots are in complete rebuild mode. The Miami Dolphins, listen, they look great whenever the weather is nice, whenever they're playing freaking lesser teams, but we don't know if they can beat legitimate contenders yet. And I still have question marks when they lost offensive linemen, they lost defense. They've got no edge rushers. Like right now, it's wide open, as they say. But in all actuality, a healthy New York Jets freaking team should be able to go ahead and win the AFC East.
To me, the X factor is Hackett and Saleh. That's the X factor in all of this. That
True.
Is the enormous, because like you look at, I have a lot of questions about their leadership and their development. Just I don't know. Like I hate the way this team falls apart. I hate the way they're handled. I just don't like it. And it's like, all right, you have this very competitive team. Can he beat Jim Harbaugh? Can he beat Andy Reid? Can he beat McDermott up in Buffalo in a big spot? Like winning.
I would argue this:
winning meaningless games in the year are great. Oh, we won this game, won that game. When the season of playoffs run the line last 2 years, this team didn't do anything. They didn't even show up.
I'll riddle me this. So the coaching thing is a big question mark. I'm not going to argue with you that that's facts. But Bill Belichick is considered the greatest coach of all time. Mm-hmm. How has he fared when he did not have Tom Brady?
True.
I look at those things, man. I'm like, listen, I think Aaron Rodgers can go ahead and keep Nathaniel Hackett at bay to at least run an average offense if he's having to be the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. If Saleh stick to what he knows and just make sure that defense is good, fine. You're not a head coach. We understand that. At least you understand defense. We'll give you that. So I think when you put those two things together, I think the Jets still haven't, because again, Bill Belichick didn't know freaking offense. I mean, hell, he drafted Tom Brady like, damn near Mr. Irrelevant, but claims like, yeah, I saw something in him. Shut up. You didn't know. If you had known he was going to be what he was going to be, you would have drafted him in the first round. Yep. Shut up. The fact of the matter is Tom Brady was able to go ahead and run the offense, I think, beyond efficiently and effectively. You saw every offensive coordinator that freaking the Patriots had go elsewhere and just flop and be trash. So it goes to prove that, yeah, coaching, as important as it is, sometimes if you've got the dogs, the playmakers, or the quarterback, they can go ahead and overshadow some of that stuff. And I think right now, with how well our roster is built, and we can't argue that at least Saleh knows defense. Nathaniel Hackett, to me, is the biggest question mark because offensively, like, that's his realm. But that's why I'm like, I'm really hoping Aaron Rodgers can go ahead and at least mitigate the mid, which we all kind of saw him do last year whenever a play would be called and he had the and he would shake his head like, what the? So you can already tell Aaron Rodgers was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are we calling that?
We ain't calling that play. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I think gives me more confidence in the fact that we're going to see a different offense this year. It's going to be potentially a legitimate offense ran by one Aaron Rodgers. So we've seen Peyton Manning do it for Adam Gase. We've seen Tom Brady do it for countless freaking guys on the Patriots. And now we're going to see Aaron Rodgers potentially do it for freaking Nathaniel Hackett.
No,
unfortunately, they're going to go ahead and probably get Nathaniel Hackett paid another head coaching job, but that'll be somebody else's problem, not ours.
Here is one. Would you give number 10 for Brandon Ayuk?
So, okay. I gotta add Jets Afterburners podcast real quick. Is Adunze available in this scenario, or one of the top 3 freaking wide receivers? Because that makes a difference for me, and I'll explain why. Now I'll tell you this: the contract matters to me. Yep. So Brandon Ayuk, I will say this: I think he's a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL right now, and this is a guy that really wasn't being utilized as much because the offense wasn't running through him. Yep. But I think he's efficient. The guy doesn't drop balls. He's a dog. He clean routes. I think right now he's a wide receiver 1 on the 49ers. Yep. I don't know if MHJ or Neighbors or Adunze can be Ayuk this year or the following year, but I look at if one of those guys is available, the cost, right, to give up the 10th overall pick and have to pay that man $30 million.
Yep.
I struggle with that aspect, the $30 million hit, because then it limits a lot of what you can do moving forward, right? Don't forget, we don't have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, right? We don't have a Brock Purdy right now playing freaking extremely well.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, Mike. He's going to want $30+ million, right? Because he put up better numbers than freaking Devontae Smith.
Sure did.
I mean, he was a beast. So because I have to give up the 10th overall pick and then pay this man, I'm going to go no. I would rather go ahead and pick a Dunze if he's there. But I think Ayuk is a dog. No, I think Ayuk is a dog. He's a top guy in the league. But in terms of when you're looking at the roster we've constructed, we already have the quarterback making $35+ million, $40 million, whatever it is now.
Yep. We
don't have the luxury of a rookie contract that would allow him to come in here and keep what we have intact.
Yep. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like, yeah, you want him until you pick. Yep. And like same thing with T. Higgins. You give up the big compensation and an enormous contract. I'd love to be that, but it's just so now. Is there one free agent that you desperately want at some point, like between now and the end of the draft? There's somebody like, you know what? I'm sitting here like, we kind of talked about a bunch of names. Like we have these these backdoor, handshake agreements. Is there one you definitely want to add to the Jets at some point?
I can only have one, right? Yep. Only one.
Yep.
Then I'm going to stick with my guns, man. I think it's Brandon Ayuk. I'm sorry, not Brandon Ayuk. Bakatari. Yep. I want Bakatari, man. I want him bad. I think, again, I did a lot of research into like the recent surgery he got on the knee. And it wound up being that the original surgeon that was supposed to repair the ACL did a horrible job. He didn't quite get a lot of the dead MCL ligaments out, which was causing freaking fluid buildup, agitation, which is why he kept going back in to get his knee drained. So literally the injury he's been dealing with the last 3 years is the same original injury he dealt with when he tore the ACL. This is a guy that was an Iron Man, never missed a game prior to that. And then we've seen him on and off, but he's gotten it repaired finally. And I think Bakatari coming in and that knee is finally right could be a freaking force. Tyron Smith's not going to give us 17 games.
Nope.
I'm sorry. And if you believe that he can and you're a Jets fan, then I want some of the whatever you're drinking past that, because the dude hasn't done it in a decade. I just don't believe he's going to be able to hold up for an entire season. But the drop off from Tyron Smith to Bakatari, I mean, there's a drop off, but it's not going to be so significant that it impacts the way the offense operates.
Nope.
Like, that's still a guy who can operate at a Pro Bowl level compared to an all-pro and Tyron Smith. So for me, that's my guy, man. If there's an opportunity to bring him in, and I'm saying that even if we did go the offensive line route in the first, I still want him in the building.
Me too.
So that's my must-have.
Now, Afram is a good friend of mine, also my IT director, because I don't know how to do shit on the goddamn computer. Here is his idea, and I love this idea. And I will tell you this, I love this receiver for the Jets.
Okay.
Bowers is there at 10. Broncos call and want to trade up for Bowers. They're willing to include Sutton. So you get Sutton and you switch.
Done. Fucking done.
Done. And he's already on a contract for 2 more years, I believe, right? At a reasonable contract.
A reasonable price.
Great receiver. You're trading back 2 spots. You can get your offensive lineman and your receiver home run.
Yeah, that's win-win-win. Like
enormous home run.
You couldn't ask for a better situation. So yes, if 1,000 times over, sign me up for that. That would be a home run. Man, Joe D, we'd give him the statue.
Me too.
That's a great deal.
I'd give him an extension right there. That'd be done.
Yeah, right there and then. Yep.
I love Sutton for his team. That'd be the perfect thing,
man.
You dress 2
Sutton, Mike Williams, freaking Garrett Wilson. Listen, see, now I'm getting excited.
I'd be talking all kinds of shit then. I'd be unbearable.
That's the thing, because then I wouldn't shut up. I'd be like, we had the top wide receiver room in the NFL now. Now it's us. We own that.
But you know what's sad was I was saying that shit last year with friggin' Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard and all those other guys.
Yeah,
Great. And
we were sipping some of that Jets juice though, man. Let's be honest. Sometimes our fandom gets carried away, and we take logic out of it.
Logic,
and it's all hope and desire. So yeah, I was on that boat too. Like, yeah, we're a top 3, top 5 freaking wide receiver room at worst on a bad day.
Wait, you do show based on logic? I gotta learn about this. What's this logic?
It's difficult. It usually happens, you know what I'm saying, once the bubble has bursted. Once it's been bursted, you're like, oh, this is why this has happened to me.
My Jets logic usually comes into beer 3 or beer 4. I'm like, you know what? This is where my Jets logic really comes into play, where it's just the coping mechanisms. Now, my last question for you, because first of all, we went over an hour, so I don't know how this was over an hour already. It's ridiculous.
What? Oh, wow.
I can't believe it. So right now, April 17th at 10:09 Eastern Standard Time, and we're here. Who are the New York Jets going to pick at pick 10?
If I had to bet on it, I believe the pick is Odunze.
Really?
I do. I think Odunze is going to somehow fall to us by the grace of the football gods, and that he's going to be the guy. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna stick with. I'm gonna go with Odunze. I don't know why. I don't have anything to factually back this up. I do believe there's 2 teams that he would be available to ahead of us that will make way more sense because they need wide receivers, and Neighbors and MHA will be off the board by then. But I don't know, man. I just have a feeling that somebody's going to surprise us that's ahead of us. It's going to make somebody else make a shift, and somehow, some way, Odunze falls to us. Maybe the Chicago Bears will really go defense after they get Caleb Williams because they feel good about DJ Moore that they already have over there. And I think that could be one of those guys who I think needs a wide receiver like Williams, like Odunze, that lets slide. So, yeah, man, I'm going to go with Odunze. I think Odunze is going to be the guy that we wind up with next Thursday.
And where do you think J.J. McCarthy goes? How high? Because he is a guy, it's so weird. Like, some people either love him or I'm like,
or they hate him.
This guy is a complete bum. And it's just, I'll tell you what this. I am so glad the Jets are not in the market for a quarterback.
Oh, same here.
Bro, I would be out of my mind with this draft class. It'd be a disaster.
I'd want to trade. If we had the number 1 overall pick right now and we needed a quarterback, I'd want to trade out of it.
Yep.
I'd want to
out of my mind.
Trade out of it and accumulate as many assets as possible. Because again, I don't like any of these guys. I just don't. But I think JJ is going to be a top 15 pick, and this is a guy that I think should have been
top 10. You go top 10, top 5. Now it's the ultimate smoke screen season right now. You can't.
Yeah, it's what it is. I don't believe he goes top 5. I think that's a smoke screen. I don't believe he goes top 5. Top 10, I think is possible. Somebody trades up to go ahead and snag him because they're worried for some reason. But at worst, he's going to get picked by pick 15 at worst.
Yeah, I can see.
But yeah, top 10, man. At this point, I think it's going to be a game to kind of figure out when does JJ get drafted, because this is a guy who I was thinking second, maybe third rounder in terms of what he's been asked to do at Michigan. It wasn't like the offense ran through him or he was asked to do much. Again, good character kid. You can't be mad at him. I think he's a great processor. I think he's quick processing when it comes to reading defenses and making decisions, but you haven't seen enough to really sit there and be like, this is a guy that's worth a first round pick. I don't, it's quarterback. This is the quarterback position.
All like potential and what you can groom him in the be, it seems like.
Right. And people are just gambling.
You're not basing it on what you saw. You're basing on what you
it's hope. Yep. Hopes and dreams. And to me, that's a slippery slope. So, but I think, top 15 pick. This is a guy that should have been potentially second or third. He's going to go in the top 15.
Yeah, it's wow. This draft class, this draft's gonna be so fascinating, man.
It's going to be
because there's so many teams that want to trade up. There's teams that want to trade back, and their Jets are at 10. You're like, what's the shrapnel going to be at 10? Like, what's if there's a run on quarterbacks that helps the Jets. The run on receivers doesn't help the Jets.
No, it doesn't. I hope it's quarterback.
It's so interesting. So
football gods willing.
My good friend Gunny. First of all, we're 2 weeks away from the draft? Not even a week away from the draft.
Next week, a week away. Yep.
And I had time to talk to you for an hour. So this is going to cost me a fortune because I know you're a man that has so many shows. And just so the viewers know, I texted Gunny. I'm like, hey, man, when are you free? And he's like, well, I have 10 minutes on Monday. I have 20 minutes on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I can give you a half hour. Thursday, probably about 17 minutes. Friday was 12 minutes. I was like, well, let's go with Wednesday. It was the most time that you were available.
That's not at all how it went down. Not at all. I said, hey, when do you need me? He said, hey, when would be best for you? And I was just like, I got a show here. I can do it before or after, or a show here before or after. But Wednesday, I'm free.
Give me an
And he was
Excel
just like,
spreadsheet.
boom.
I had to pick all these times out. I thought I was making a book, making a point for a doctor or something. I had like get all the scroll the date, the time. Like, God,
cross that one out.
Man.
That's no good. That's no good. Okay, you know what? Wednesday, there's nothing going on. We'll figure it out for Wednesday.
Dude, this is every time I go on YouTube, you guys are freaking live doing something. I'm like, God damn.
It's that time of year, man. It's just there's so much to talk about. Like it's just we can't help ourselves.
See, I'm more of the reacting to the draft than preparing for the draft because there's so many like the if thens drive me crazy. But once they pick and they pass on players, that's why I like getting involved. Like, oh, you passed.
There it is.
And then it's like, then we can argue all day long about what the best move to be made was.
Should have done. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I love the second guessing. Like the whole Wirf Specton thing, we did that forever. You know?
Yep. And look, we were right. We were right.
Son of a bitch. So, first of all, thank you so much for your time. Now, give up all your different. Now, everybody, if you're watching, get a piece of paper. It's gonna be a long list here of all the shows. It's gonna be a lot. I had to write down. Like, I have a list. I'm like, Gunny, what should I promote? He gave me this list. I had like 2 sides of the. I'm like, God damn.
All right, I'll give you all the abbreviated version, right? So y'all can catch me on Tuesday nights, every Tuesday night, 7:30 Central. The Hanger Hangout is my own podcast. I bring guests on all the time. We talk the New York Jets about an hour and a half. We just did one with Mike the Stat Guy yesterday, and we had Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Mike the Stat Guy literally has been preparing for this for a long time. We did an entire 7-round mock draft. And he put me on some game about some individuals I wasn't even thinking about, which is why I started feeling a little bit better about some of the later offensive line options. So check out that video. He's got some good insight for y'all to see. And then Ryan gives us a grade at the end of it. So it's a good show. Just go check it out. On Thursday nights, Thursday Thick of It with Green Bean. I'm on Green Bean's channel. That kicks off at 8 p.m. East Coast time, so 7 p.m. my time, Central. So that's fun. 2 hours. We're just talking Jets, everything New York Jets. Y'all already know how it goes. Monday nights, you can catch me. You can catch me with Jigga Man Porto and Abby.
Music while you're doing this, like just start playing.
We do the Jets nightcap episodes, man. It's a good time. If you haven't seen Jigga's channel, Jigga's awesome, man. Like he's definitely a fun to watch. So you can see us do our thing on Monday nights. And then on Fridays at 2 p.m., you can also catch myself, DKBX, and Italy Jet Gino. We do the Flight Squad at 2 p.m. Central on Friday. So that's it. It's just a couple of shows.
And you guys are gonna be live for the draft too, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then next week we're doing a live draft watch party, and there's going to be a AVT autographed jersey giveaway.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, so that's gonna be fun. So jump on the channel. I'm gonna have a bunch of guys on there with me. I don't want to miss anybody, but like Dom C, Mike the Stat Guy. We're gonna have Nick Shine. We're gonna have DK. We're gonna have Gino. Hopefully Tyson can go ahead and find some time. I know he's got his own thing.
How do I win the jersey?
Oh, okay, easy day. So to win the jersey, in the comments, right? We're gonna go ahead and go live at 7 o'clock. So like 6:30, you can go ahead and start putting your comments from 6:30 to 7. And the whole thing is you got to properly guess what the AFC East is going to do in the draft. So you're going to give your guess of what the freaking Patriots are going to do, the Jets are going to do, the Dolphins, and then the Bills, right? And let's say you get 3 out of 4. Whoever gets the Jets one correctly, that's a tiebreaker. So anyone who gets the Jets ones correctly obviously moves on to the next tiebreaker section, which is going to be how many wide receivers get drafted in the first round, right? And then the second tiebreaker is going to be does a tight end go in the top 10?
Oh, I got to get on.
And then, yeah, it's whoever wins. If we have multiple ties after that, we'll just do a drawing from. No, it's based off of who placed it into the comments first. So again, you can start posting. I think at like 6 o'clock apparently before it starts. But I'm gonna start tracking them more so at 6:30 to start taking names down. So yeah, the winner will get the.
Look at this guy. Now he's just showing off
the autographed Elijah Vera Tucker jersey.
I need one of those in my life.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, hopefully you win it, Tyson.
I'm getting that chat messing. I'm throwing my draft insight out there.
Throw it in there, man. Elijah Vera Tucker jersey, and you'll also be getting the certificate of authenticity. I don't play that game. I'll make sure everybody that participates gets the real deal. So yeah, come check it out. It's gonna be a fun watch party.
Is there any truth that you're headlining at Borgata Atlantic City this Saturday?
Nah, I didn't get the invite from Jake on that one, man. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go ahead and be on that one.
I was in Borgata this past Saturday. I highly recommend the place. Gorgeous place. And now the final question for you. This is a very important one. Does your wife need to make an appointment to hang out with you since you're so busy?
No, the wife gets access to me whenever she wants to. In fact, I've been getting the look. I'm going to go sit down and have dinner with them now, actually. But no, she does not need to make an appointment whenever she needs me or wants me. I'm there.
Well, my friend, first of all, I can't believe you did an hour and 20 minutes. I don't know where the hell this time went.
It flew, bro.
Draft time. I know you're busy as hell, man. I know your schedule's crazy. So I definitely appreciate it. Everybody, I'll put the links in there underneath this when we're done. Thank you, dude. This was a blast, man. You're
always a good time, Tyson.
It's really cool to see how far you, like over the last 2 years, how you're just taking off and just owning your content and getting better and developing it and finding out all these takes. And I can see you're doing a good job when you're pissing people off, dude. You're pissing people off. You're making a difference.
Hey, if you don't got haters, man, you ain't doing something right. So I take that. I embrace my haters. I love them. They keep me on my toes.
So thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you follow him. Next Thursday, I'm coming on to try to win that damn jersey.
I'll see you next Thursday.
And then we will talk after, Jeff. We can argue about picks.
100%.
Have a good night, man. Thank you.